Hey everyone, I hope y'all are having a great day, and today I'll be reviewing The Winner's Kiss by Marie Rutkoski, the last book in the Winner's trilogy. The first book is The Winner's Curse, the second book is The Winner's Crime, and this beautiful book is the conclusion to the trilogy, The Winner's Kiss. This being the last book in a trilogy, it's kind of hard to talk about without getting into spoilers, but before I go into the specifics of the book, I want to talk about the series as a whole. I love the series, it's definitely one of my favorites, and weirdly enough, instead of feeling strangely possessive or territorial about these books, I actually just want to shout my love for these books to the world because I want everyone to read these books and love them the way I do. Reading the series is just such a refreshing and exciting experience, and I feel like not enough people have experienced it, and I just want everyone to read these books. These books deserve to be read by so many people because this series is so great. Marie Rutkoski, by the way, I'm 3 books into this series, it's over now, and I still don't know how to pronounce her last name. She is so talented at writing, her characters are so rich, and her writing is elegant yet effective. This series is about a number of things, but it's mainly about the difficult relationship between a Valorian girl named Kestrel and a Harani boy named Aaron. There are many things that drive these two apart, including their positions and their backgrounds and their race. Marie Rutkoski expertly balances romance with political intrigue in this series, creating a whirlwind of angst and joy and excitement and devastation. If you haven't picked up the series yet, I strongly encourage you to. I will admit, I don't think this series is necessarily for everyone. It is a romance-heavy series, and I think some people might think that Marie Rutkoski's writing is a little flowery, and the plot can be slow at times. So like I said, maybe not everyone will enjoy it, but I think everything about the series is just perfect for me. It completely suited my taste, and it gave me everything I wanted from it. I genuinely believe that the series is one of the best YA has to offer. So enough about the series as a whole. Maybe you clicked on this video having read the first 2 books, but you haven't read the 3rd book yet. I just want to let you know that even if you maybe didn't like the 2nd book as much as you liked the 1st book, which is how I felt, I want you to finish this trilogy. Marie Rutkoski ended the series so perfectly. There's really nothing I would change about it. She really ties up her story, and she rushes nothing, giving the proper attention to her characters and to her plot. This conclusion is beyond satisfactory. It's honestly a masterpiece. It's everything I wanted it to be and more. If you can't already tell, I'm very gushy about this book. I loved it so much. After finishing a series, I always feel this very melancholy blend of emptiness and satisfaction. I'm sad it's over because I love this series, and it always sucks to see a series that you love end. I love Kestrel, and I love Aaron, and I love everything that Marie Rutkoski has created in this series. I'm going to go into spoilers now, so if you haven't read The Winner's Kiss and you don't want to be spoiled, I'd advise leaving in 3, 2, 1, adios. Alright, so The Winner's Kiss. What a good ending, am I right? There's nothing that I wanted to happen that didn't happen in this book. It was honestly better than I imagined it to be. Something that never ceases to amaze me is Kestrel's strength. She's so strong, and I don't really mean physically. She's just so determined and so cunning and so devoted. Sure, she's proud, and that pride sometimes gets her into bad situations. But overall, I think she's such a vivid and admirable character. But along with her strength, I like that Kestrel also has a lot of vulnerability. And this is something that I think Marie Rutkoski does really well with her characters, is she gives them a really good balance of 2 traits that kind of seem contradictory. I think she does this with both Kestrel and with Aaron, and she does it really well. With Kestrel tried escaping from the prison mines, and that's an example of how strong she is. But she also eventually submitted to the drugs and let herself go, and I think that's an example of Kestrel's vulnerability. I just think that she and Aaron are both really balanced characters. Aaron's balance comes with violence. Aaron can be a really lethal person, and the trouble with being a good soldier or a good fighter or a good killer is that once you're really good at it and you're doing it often, you kind of get desensitized towards it and you end up having a really cold heart. So if a character is good at killing in YA, that's frequently immediately translated into having a lack of humanity. You don't feel anything anymore, you become numb to the damage that you're inflicting. But interestingly, I think with Aaron, that's not necessarily the case. That's not to say he's not violent, and that's not to say that his violence doesn't make me uncomfortable, because it does. Reading about him slitting throats and stabbing guts, that's That's uncomfortable for me to read personally because I don't find very much glory in war or battle. But anyway, Eren is a good killer, right? He thinks that he has this god of death inside of him, but he still has his humanity. He has a little bit of mercy, he has a little bit of hesitation, a little bit of that softness that makes humans humans. So I thought Marie did a great job with that. I never really fully trusted any of the Eastern people, so Roshar and Risha and Anisha. Roshar made me feel very like unsettled. I never really trusted him, even when Kestrel and Eren both said that they trusted him. But that last scene with Eren the tiger and how he took the tiger's meat, I thought that was really cute. I thought that was really funny. And also Roshar and Eren's romantic goodbye at the end of the book. So it's not really until the end of the book that I actually warmed up to Roshar. Kestrel's memory loss due to the drugs from the prison mine was a really interesting plot element. I like that it wasn't prolonged or dragged out more than it needed to be, and I like that pieces of her memories eventually and gradually started coming back to her. But anyway, I like the way Marie Rutkoski handled that too. I thought she made it agonizing, but not in a way that lasted forever. Something I really love and appreciate about the relationship between Kestrel and Eren is that it feels very equal, and it feels so full of respect. I think you can really tell that both of these characters respect one another, and that's so important to me. I love that they take turns saving each other. It's never really one person always saving the other. And I like that when you weigh the strengths of each character in their different ways, neither is particularly stronger than the other. Of course, Eren has those moments where he kind of just wants to protect Kestrel and keep her in a cage, but I like the way that Kestrel puts her foot down and asserts herself and does what she wants to do. They both make their own decisions, and the fact that they're placed on a level playing field, I feel, is just very important. Although Marie absolutely nails the romance in this series, I do think that in comparison, the other character dynamics kind of pale. They aren't bad in the least, but they're definitely not as carefully crafted as the relationship between Kestrel and Eren is. For example, the main relationship that didn't feel completely developed to me in this third book was the relationship between Kestrel and her father. I feel like that relationship very suddenly occupied a very large part of Kestrel's heart in this third book on a kind of grand scale that I hadn't seen in the previous two books. Like in the earlier books, I never considered her relationship with her father to be a particularly crucial component in her life, but in this book it really was. I feel like Marie Rutkoski could have attached more gravity to that relationship in earlier books, but nonetheless I do want to give her credit for creating such an interesting father-daughter dynamic in this book, because I feel like there's no other relationship quite like Kestrel and the generals in any other YA series I've read. I'm glad that Eren decided not to kill the general, because I feel like that's another example of how Marie Rutkoski balances the humanity in Eren's character. When Kestrel was painting those bite and sting tiles, I was like, literally what the heck? There's no way that this war is going to end through a game of tiles. What is Marie Rutkoski doing with this plot? I should have had way more faith in her. I knew that the poison was going to come into play eventually because Marie Rutkoski kept incorporating it into her plot and into her dialogue, like when Kestrel asked Roshar about the ring. But I didn't fully put the pieces together until almost right before it was actually revealed in the narrative. When the Emperor was like, "Why did you paint these tiles if you weren't going to cheat with them?" That's when things clicked for me. That's when I understood that the paint was the poison. But before that, I was thinking like maybe she had slipped it into the wine. But yeah, as a reader who was paying so much attention to any mention of that poison, it took me so long to put those pieces together. And I do think it was an excellent idea on Marie and Kestrel's part. So here's the Realio Dealio. I loved this book. I think it's a masterpiece, like I've said. I loved it so much. I'm about to nitpick at a couple of things, but that's only because I feel obligated to at least attempt a little bit of balance in this review. Honestly, I wouldn't change a single thing about how this series wrapped up. But that being said, I do think that the plot was a little bit slow at times, especially when it was war heavy, like when it had to do with battles and the waiting in between battles. Like honestly, I'm invested in these characters, not in the actual war, so those parts didn't hold my interest as easily. Also, I love Marie's writing. I really do. She has such a gorgeous way of effortlessly choosing the exact words to use. Her diction is just phenomenal because her word choice plays such an important role in creating the tone of this book. However, I do want to mention that I do think that her sentence structure is kind of limited. It's not as varied as I would have liked to see. So it was very, he did this, then he did this, then he did this. And so it became repetitive. But honestly, that is extremely negligible to me. So yeah, I think I've covered everything I wanted to talk about. But before I conclude, I'd like to pose a question to you all who have read this book. I want to know why you think the general kept Kestrel's letter with him at all times. I have a few different ideas why. I think maybe he needed to keep the letter as a source of motivation, because I do think that he loves Kestrel in a way, and sometimes I feel like maybe he would relapse and want to show mercy to his daughter, but then he would reread the letter and the pain of her betrayal and her treason would reignite his anger, and that would push him further along in the path of the Emperor's plans. On the other hand, maybe he kept it just because he missed Kestrel a lot and he wanted to keep a part of his daughter with him, especially something that was clearly so heartfelt and passionate. I don't really know what I think, but I'd love to hear y'all's opinions. So that is it for me. I love the series so much. It's definitely one of my favorites. I really wish more people on BookTube talked about this series because I think it's so phenomenal and I just want everyone to love it. Thanks so much for watching. I hope y'all have a fantastic day and happy reading. Goodbye!